surely Man United now go on to get Champions League football, and then they're going to make life very hard for all of us, because then they've got the pull of Champions League and the money and the status. I mean, this is our worst nightmare, is it not?
I'm worried.
Let me tell you about the most important app of this generation, because if you haven't got it yet, you absolutely need it. This is non-negotiable, lads, because for generations, men like me and you, we were able to view the female form online without persecution, without being made to feel like some sort of degenerate, being forced to scan our faces and enter our details as if we're doing something wrong. But in the UK, that is the new reality. That's the new normal. Well, not under my roof, it's not. And that is thanks to Surfshark. You see, I put my faith in Surfshark because it's a life-changing experience, this. And the best bit about it is its simplicity. You click on Surfshark on your phone, on your computer, on your app, whatever. Click I'm in America, 2 clicks, and boom. All of this nonsense that we're living with is removed, and I can be free to enjoy myself again without having to go through this nonsense. I'm a grown man, for God's sakes. And I can also enjoy football and boxing and fighting and other things that I can now have a little watch of. So if you want to cut through the red tape and enjoy your life to the fullest, download Surfshark immediately, right now. And when you do, please use my code. That would be great. Thanks. Just click the link in the description below, go to surfshark.com/kickoff, and you'll get 4 months extra of Surfshark added onto your deal for free. I've given you a lot of content over the years, lads, but just consider this is brotherhood stuff. Do you know what I mean? We got to look after each other in these times. And it's less than the price of a coffee a month, lads. So get it done. It's an easy win, and you'll enjoy it. Big love to the greatness of Surfshark, but for now, enjoy the video. Welcome back to the kickoff. Arsenal have defeated Chelsea in their pursuit of the Premier League title. It was a very typical Arsenal-Chelsea game. Set pieces, ugly football, ascending off for Chelsea. Cole Palmer disappeared. Jacob, we'll start with you, mate. Is it a bit weird because Chelsea used to slap you lot around and now you're slapping them around every single time?
I enjoyed the 3 points, but I can't sit here with 2 Chelsea fans and say we slapped them around. Do you know what I mean?
Brian, we have become the Arsenal, and I just can't get my head around this. Like, I've got an Arsenal fan going, do you know what? Chelsea have played okay. Like, they're actually not that bad. They've given us a good game. We've been fucking shite. We've been absolutely awful in these games. And again, it's got to the point now where we're talking about the mediocrity of Chelsea, where we're going 3 losses against one of our biggest rivals. And we're going, do you know what? We played okay. We probably could have won some of those games. Some of the decisions went against us. It's like, no, we're living in a whole different reality from what Chelsea fans expect. Yeah. We expect to go into those games being able to be good enough to beat them. And I love Jacob. Thank you so much for supporting us. You are a true friend. But do you know what? If you tell it straight and how it is, you have bossed us off the pitch in a way. You have made us look like schoolboys.
Looking at the corners that came in, obviously it was set piece FC, but like the reality is you do have to admit they fucking do it well. Like the way Gabriel attacked that first corner to get the ball back in, and Reece James was just like, what the fuck? And he was one of the ones who was switched on. Like the actual Chelsea centre-backs just seemed to be like, well, what the fuck's going on for both corners? Saw really, I felt like he was switched off and entirely. They do that well. The issue for me is what happens when that doesn't work. That's that's the bit I'm scared about for Arsenal right now, because I do think that Man City, they have players who can win games on their own in abundance compared to Arsenal, and that's where I do worry about this running for them. Jacob, do you worry about that?
I do a bit. I look at that and I go, right, if we're not going to get a goal from a set piece, and especially the first goal in games, do you know what I mean? Where does the first goal that cracks the game open come from? It used to be Saka. I used to say it's either going to be a set piece or Saka. It's not been it. It's not been it this season. I think
he's dropped off a cliff, hasn't he? I mean, he's a good footballer, but
no, he's a great footballer.
The numbers have gone.
Look, the numbers have gone in the Premier League in general now. How many teams have got match winners? And what I think Arsenal have got, coming back to Joey's point, is players that stop you from losing games. David Raya was one of them yesterday. Yeah. The centre-backs are 2 of them. Jurriën Timber had a really good game yesterday. I thought Hincapié was pretty good yesterday as well. So I think in this Premier League, where teams aren't scoring 3 or 4 goals every week, maybe it sort of suits Arsenal to be the team that have got that back 5.
Is there a feeling of anger about the Declan Rice handball? Like, can you cling on to that, lads, Chelsea fans?
Yeah. Yes, because I can tell already that Josh ain't going to even let that emotion override because he's annoyed about the team, right?
Yeah.
And the team performance. And back in the day, it wouldn't even be excusable. If you lose to Arsenal, you wouldn't have Chelsea fans going out and going, yeah, well, we should have had a penalty. It doesn't matter. There was 2 penalties given away in one move there from Declan Rice.
It's the fact that they say, he was in the middle of a move. It was like, he was in the middle of fouling someone.
He was in the middle of fouling someone.
This is not a natural position.
He's got someone in a headlock. He's got him in a headlock.
What? I'm literally like, and this is the thing. We're going to get into how Chelsea are faring this season, but I do think this was an absolute robbery. That was a joke, that decision, in my opinion.
And also, just quickly, in a game like that, when you have that, there'll be a lot of people that get in the comment section and say, hold on, do you not remember Chelsea scored on the resulting corner that led on from it? I understand that, but they are games of small margins, and you can't necessarily say that if Chelsea had been given that penalty, then, another goal wouldn't have then come. I think you play it by the rules from the book, and in that moment, you give a penalty there. And I do think that the scoreline showed you it was a low-scoring game. It was a tight game. It could have impacted things massively.
Of course it could have.
And there was more debates than just that one.
Right. The Chelsea situation, lads, obviously failed to beat Burnley at home recently and Leeds at home, which would have been, massive for you getting Champions League football. Obviously, you lost against Arsenal again. And at the same time, Manchester United have turned a massive corner. And we do have to mention that Josh was laughing at the idea of Man United even coming anywhere near them earlier this season.
Called it.
And the firepower that Man United have bought, and we're going to get into that, but it's clearly having an impact this season. And it isn't just Man United, it's Aston Villa, Liverpool finally getting their act together. And Chelsea, Villa are on the slide right now, so that's one. But Chelsea, in the entirety of the season, I think they are rightfully outside of the top 5. And something needs to happen right now, between now and the end of the season, in order to get top 5, which I think for the amount of money spent, I know we talk about it, everyone spends a lot of money, but it would be an absolute disaster if Chelsea don't make Champions League after winning being the Club World Cup champions. Can that turning point happen? Can you see where that's coming from as Chelsea fans, lads?
No, it's not going to come. And look, I'm glad you mentioned Aston Villa, because they're the only reason that we will get in top 5. They've got to have a worse end to the season than we do, and they've got easier fixtures than us. So quite frankly, in the situation that we're in right now, I can't see a world in which we get anywhere near Champions League. We're going to be way off it. And I think going back to your point, right, about what is there that we can actually do? Well, it would be fantastic if we could have another transfer window, because that's what we need right now. Like, I think the game yesterday personified so much of the problems in terms of the way the club has actually been run for me. You've got like a 19-year-old centre-back starting his first Premier League against Arsenal. The only reason why he's starting that game is because Tosin and Badiashile have been so bad. We'd rather gamble a 19-year-old centre-back starting against Arsenal, who we know are going to be amazingly good with set pieces, and we know that we're going to be up against it. And look what, he makes 2 mistakes. I don't like, putting it on one player, but he makes 2 mistakes and they score the goals from that, scores an own goal effectively. So from my perspective, right, we've just seen the results from, the UEFA stuff. We've had the biggest loss ever financially in terms of our books and the way that we've actually been run. Todd Bowley has done an interview where he's come out and said, I didn't know what I was doing. I was signing players based on what other teams wanted to sign.
Makes a lot of sense now, though.
And you asked the question, Brian, what can we do now? Well, to be honest with you, the problems have been done. We're going to have to go into a summer now and spend even more money to replace the wingers that don't give a fuck and don't really want to be there, and a centre-back problem that we've had for fucking years. So the fact of the matter is, we are so far off now, anywhere near the upper reaches of the league. And if I'm being completely honest now, I'm looking at that team, I'm looking at the way it's set up, I'm looking at the mentality of the players. I don't think we deserve Champions League football.
We've got to move on from Chelsea, but one last question about Cole Palmer. It's sad, I think, is the way I would describe it. Obviously he's not 100%, and there is a player in there, but you texted me during the game and you were like, get him off. And I think you were one of the many Chelsea fans who was just like, this isn't fucking happening here. Can you just put into a short sentence, like, what is wrong? What is wrong?
I can only speak for myself, yeah, but I can't tell you what's wrong. I wish I knew. It's something to do with his hip, his groin. It's in that region, right? I don't know what's wrong, but let me just speak for myself. And I believe a lot of Chelsea fans would echo this, right? We will allow Cole Palmer to have a bad game. Oh my God, we don't mind if Cole Palmer's creative and he tries things like he did in the last game before Arsenal, by the way, and maybe it doesn't come off for him. But the second we see Cole Palmer voluntarily sit down, yeah, and again, a lot of people say, well, he's injured. I don't care. He shouldn't be playing then if he's injured. The second we see him sit down, that is the distress signal to the crowd that this man's not ready. I don't really want to see him then continue and get back up. And it almost raises the question, mate, why are you even sitting down and showing everyone? Because for me, it's waving the white flag. It's going, here's my excuse. I'm not going to be good enough today. Yeah. Stop it. Don't be on the pitch if you're not ready.
We call that in Newcastle. We call that the Anthony Gordon special.
So Joey and Josh, before we move on, Man United offer you 80 million quid for Palmer this summer. Should you take it?
No, I mean, look, you've taken the piss out of us. Well, you've taken the piss out of us before, right? In terms of like all of these long contracts, he's probably on the longest contract in world football. 8 million isn't enough. And look, if Brian can sell a partially fit player for over 100, I think we should be doing. But
what's he giving you? Like Brian, they sold the second best striker in Europe last season in Isak. What's Palmer giving you over the last 18 months that makes you think you should turn down 80 million quid when your attack is lacking as much as Joey says it is?
I think in terms of the last 18 months, I mean, last season he was brilliant, but I think in terms of this season, it's just the injuries. You can't really even quantify his numbers because actually when he's been on the pitch, his numbers have been pretty good. Probably some of the best numbers per 90 that we've had our entire team.
Can I give you the numbers? Only scored 3 Premier League goals from open play in the last 14 months. That's his numbers. They're not good. They're really, really, really bad. Fuck me.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the thing. This is what the injuries can do. I mean, look, if the medical team have some inside knowledge and they go, this is Isak level, this is, he's a player that will never be the same again, then obviously you do take the money. But yeah. I don't personally get the vibe that the injury is that bad. I feel like it's one of those things that he can recover from, but
he's looking at the World Cup.
Clearly, he's constantly looking like he's injured throughout the season. Just do the fucking surgery and fix it once and for all. Like this piss farting around, watching him hobble along. It's annoying me, and I don't even fucking support Chelsea. We got to move on to Man United, lads. Since Michael Carrick took over, and it kind of impacts the way I look at Newcastle even more. We were level on points when Michael Carrick took over, and I think we're on 32 points each. Since then, Newcastle have picked up 4 points. Manchester United have picked up 19 points. Michael Carrick has been on a tear as manager. He's playing players in their right positions. Bruno Fernandes is really looking like the best player in the Premier League, to be honest with you. He's impacting games more than anybody else. You could look at maybe Semenyo. He's right up there right now. And Sesko coming good. What a fucking bit of form he's hit with that ball in for that header. What a cross in from Bruno Fernandes. They've gone out and they've spent money on ready-made firepower, and players like Bruno Fernandes are coming good at the perfect time. They don't have 2 games a week. Surely Man United now go on to get Champions League football, and then they're going to make life very hard for all of us because then they've got the pull of Champions League and the money and the status. I mean, this is our worst nightmare, is it not?
I'm worried looking at Man United at the moment. I was flicking between the Fulham Spurs game and the Man United game yesterday. I've got sort of interest in both of those. And I was looking at the way Man United were playing football, and by no means was it a vintage Man United performance. It wasn't as good, in my opinion, as the performances that they've had under Michael Carrick so far. But it's so much more potent and precise than what Chelsea are doing. And when that ball was whipped into Sesko, the second the ball gets played out wide, you know what's happening, and you can back that an informed striker is going to get on the end of it. Sorry to take it back to Chelsea. There was a ball that Reece James put in the box that just had no one that even had the idea. Jacob remembers that one. João Pedro's there, who's been doing well, but no one even had the idea to be able to rise to it. And having someone like a Sesko in there that not only is playing out of his skin himself, but also gives the wide men the ability to know, hang it in there and someone's going to attack it.
Yeah.
And that confidence, I think, gives you a lot more direction in how you play. And Man United yesterday, even when they were trailing, looked to me like a side that just understood the assignment and the best way to get yourself the opportunity of getting there.
Do you know
Michael Carrick, sorry, mate. Michael Carrick was able to impact the game at halftime with his halftime team talk, shuffling things around, changing things up as well. Like I'm not saying he's reinvented the wheel, Michael Carrick, and maybe he isn't the right long-term option, but just doing the fucking basics, man. He's putting Amorim to shame, and I'm looking at Seshko and looking at the speed and the power and just seeing him. You know, you can see what he's gonna be, even just from what we're seeing now. I'm like, everyone's going to wish they'd have fucking stumped up. I mean, like Arsenal, for example.
Yep.
Jacob, I'll let you take this on. That extra 10 million or whatever it was, 15 million. It's going to pay for itself 10 times over for Man United.
Do you know what I was going to say? So Newcastle have been playing Anthony Gordon as a striker, right? And we're going to get onto that in a minute. Chelsea, like you guys were saying, how you look at your bench, you don't see enough attacking impetus. The wingers haven't done anything this season. I think Pedro's been a good signing, but he's never going to be a red hot goal scorer. Like, all of us have watched our teams struggle to score goals this season. Even Arsenal, top of the table, second in open play goals. I'm watching us and I'm praying for corners. Man United just make scoring goals look simple.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I watched them, and like when they beat us, when they turned us over, when they beat City, they just make attacking football look simple.
Yeah.
And I look around their team, I'm like, what is it? Why are we all like banging our heads against brick walls? Every week we talk about low blocks.
Can I give an idea? I really do have an idea.
Bruno.
Well, Bruno is an anomaly in that he wins games on his own, but it feels to me like, when I look at the way Chelsea play, or the way Arsenal play, and the way Newcastle play, we're very overcoached. And I've heard through the grapevine, I hear things about the way some of the reasons why certain players, Alanga maybe, or have been struggling. It's the level of like information that they're being taken on, and it's almost a paralysis by analysis, like in that you're not allowed to play with freedom. And I feel like Michael Carrick has gone in there with a much more, let the lads express themselves going forward. Yes, we have that structure at the back, but you can coach the artistry out of a fucking attacking team. And Man United, and I agree, like Joey, I watch them and I go, God, we've been so much better than this lot for a few years now. And yet I'm looking at them and they have completely left us behind. They've completely left us behind. Depressing.
I mean, you look at I just think last summer they just kept it simple. They bought Mbumu, who was one of the best forwards in the league. They bought Cunha, who everyone knew was capable. As you say in Šeško, look, it's taken him a bit of time, but he's one of the youngest strikers that came to the Premier League of that sort of cohort of the Ekatikes and the Voltamadas and the Gyökereses. But they've just done it right. They've taken their time bringing him in. They've surrounded him with players who know the league, who know how to create chances. And now, like, if you're going to put your money on any of those strikers, I think Ekatike is great, but like, if you're going to put your money on any of those strikers being great in 2 or 3 years, Šeško's right up there. And I think what you say about Carrick, he just keeps it simple. 4-2-3-1, players where they want to play. I mean, it makes Amorim look like a mug. Like what he was doing to overcomplicate that team. Going into the summer, why would United change anything? Like, which manager is on the market? You might say Luis Enrique. I don't think he's going to Manchester United. Who else out there would do a better job of Man United? And then
there's no one out there that would have come in and win those 2 figures that Michael Carrick did.
And then, do you know what really worries me, Joe? Is next year, I think Pep goes, right? Liverpool, we're still not sure about Slot. Arsenal, I think, I just know a couple of things about players who might be leaving where things might go a bit funny with us next season. And I think we're one of them. If you're talking about overcoached, Brian, my word, we're reading essays before we go on the pitch. Mm-hmm. I'm really worried about Man United being in title races next year.
And you know what's changed? Man United, the job, it used to be a job that struck fear in the eyes of managers, which is why I believe that they went for the likes of Amorim, Ten Hag, not the top guys, because a lot of the top guys must have been looking at that going, fuck that. Now, with Carrick tidying everything up and just sweeping the shit away and getting them playing again, you'd look at that and you'd go, all right, I could do something there. So I do think that their ability to get a bigger and better manager is going to be at its peak for a long, long time. We will have to go out to Newcastle now, unfortunately. Speaking of clubs who need a new manager, it's so bad, lads. I've actually been I'll be honest, you know when you get football depression? I've had this I usually consume all the Newcastle podcasts, everything, right? I had 2-3 weeks where I was like, I can't listen to anything anymore. I just need to not ignore football and pretend I get my rant out and then I just ignore it from that point on, because it's so, and actually even when we were winning games, because I was like, I can't be arsed with this false positivity that these lads come out with and we beat Karabakh, but I don't want to hear this shit because I know where this is going now. And when you've seen too much, I can't unsee this now. I've seen that Eddie Howe really has reached the point of no return. He's not going to get this back now.
When I read your tweet the other day, when someone's just borderline in going over the edge of going insane, and then once they do, they're actually really happy. That's what I thought had happened to you when I read your tweet the other day, and then I realised you were being
as I was writing that, because I've had so much criticism about me being overcritical and being negative from the Newcastle fans because they love Eddie so much. But you know when your mate is so in love with his bird, but his bird's a fucking arsehole, and you can see it, and you're kind of trying to, and he doesn't want to hear that. That's the way Newcastle fans are with me. And then the more that this bird cheats on him, and he's starting to realise maybe he was right. So I thought at that point, I got to come with something really sarcastic that just rub their fucking noses in it, just because Uncle Brian was right.
I don't think it's just Newcastle fans, by the way. I think there's a shared sort of feeling, and it's probably something that we haven't really scratched beneath the surface with, just amongst football fans in general in this country. Eddie Howe, he's very likeable. He's one of our own, right, in terms of a British manager that don't normally perform that well, and he's won stuff and he's done stuff, and therefore we do have that tendency to think Eddie will get it right. And I probably had that earlier on in the season. Over time, you keep seeing he's not getting it right. And even in the times when you do pull off a good result, it hasn't been repeated. It hasn't been something that foundations have been built on. Never. So it does get to a point now where my sort of shock levels at seeing Eddie Howe leave Newcastle at the end of the season would be probably 10 times lower than they would have been at the start of the season, going in off the back of winning silverware.
If he does go, this is going to be a really, really tough summer though, isn't it?
It's going to be a tough summer either way, because here's the issue, and this is what Newcastle fans don't seem to understand, is when they're blindly backing Eddie Howe as he is leading us into the abyss, there's going to be an exodus now. Because Eddie's fucked it so badly and we won't get Champions League football, those players that mentally think they're Champions League footballers, even though they've all been shite this season, the likes of Sandro Tonali, the likes of Anthony Gordon, the likes of Livramento, who can barely fucking play 5 games in a row, they're all wanting out, right? That's what we're hearing. Those are 3 that look really odds on to leave. That is going to have an impact on not just the quality in the side, and I would hope that we'd be able to replace them to some degree, but it's also the mentality of when you think you're building something, and players who have been there and at one point felt like we were going somewhere with those players, that's going to have an impact on the mentality of the side. And I think that obviously Isak leaving did have a little bit of an impact in that sense. This is going to be way worse. That's why you can't blindly support Eddie Howe. Things need to change at the top.
You mentioned the players leaving there. One name you didn't say, and I understand that you're in a position of safety contractually, he's only just come to the club, but I look at Volto, right, and I think that when I was watching him earlier on in the season, and even now to an extent, when I was watching him earlier on in the season, he was probably offering me what I thought that Man United were originally going to get from Šeško. I thought he was looking like, for a player that had the sort of physical stature that he did, he was really, really good. good close ball control. He was scoring, I said to you earlier on, he weren't scoring a great number of goals, but he was scoring great goals. The goals that he was scoring had variation to them. They were good. And now they're dropping off, right? And I think that some of it can come down
He's
to
playing centre midfield, lads.
Some of it can come down to the
Centre
position.
midfield.
Yeah.
We're playing Joe Linton left wing. Imagine Caicedo playing left wing.
Yeah.
Imagine João Pedro playing centre midfield. And this is the thing. I'm the one who's getting grief for questioning this nonsense. Like, are the lights on? Just on the Volto thing, he's class, lads. And if you get him in a team like Arsenal, like Chelsea, and you give him that, those kind of players that you've got to play around him, to create for him, because the thing that no one ever acknowledges when everyone's blaming Volto for not scoring when he's playing centre midfield, it is we do not create chances. We don't have good crossers. We don't have good incisive passes. We don't have good patterns of play. Even when he was scoring all those goals, the thing that no one realizes, he was having one shot a game, and every single shot was going in the back of the net. It was months before a keeper even saved a shot from him. Donnarumma it was, ironically. What we're seeing now is young Volto just came to us, 23 years old, first season in the Premier League, house on fire. And ironically, those goals that he scored have literally saved us from being in the relegation scrap. And yeah, because the press and the media at Newcastle are so weak, are so entrenched in the Eddie Howe fanboyism, that instead of criticising Eddie Howe and the way he's setting us up to play, instead of criticising the players that have been there for ages, or that whole team and the way we're not creating chances, because they don't understand football. They've got their heads in their laptop. They'd rather blame it on a young kid who's come to the league and actually pretty much saved us with his goals earlier this season, because yes, he's struggling. Why is he struggling? Because we didn't keep the faith with him. The way Ekatiké's had stinkers, Gyökeres had stinkers, Sesko's had stinkers. Their teams kept the faith in them, and you need to be on the pitch. You need to get the minutes to get those goals. Eddie Howe is such a coward, right? He's such a weak bottle job of a manager when it comes to, when he's under pressure, I've got to get him off. All right, we'll play the other day, great example. Gordon played up front for half an hour. It was terrible. We put Volto up front for half an hour. We didn't create a single chance for him, right? He didn't score. Of course he didn't. Right. So we'll take him off. We'll put Gordon back up front. All right. That's not working. What do? I'm going to put Osula up front. That's not working. All right. Throw Wissa up front. We'll put Osula on the right. Like, it was this is literally 4 different strikers or something in a fucking game. 5 different variations of striker in a single game. This man is showing everyone, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm in panic mode right now. And what I'm worried about is, I can see that, but fucking the way Todd Bowley ran Chelsea, he didn't have a fucking clue. Who does our American, chairman have a fucking clue about football? Is he able to see the mess that we're creating here? I would hope that we would look at it and go, teams around us have spent a fraction of what we spent. We spent hundreds of millions, and we're in the bottom half of the league. Sunderland have came up, they've already gone ahead of us. Surely that's sackable. Surely this is a turning point where you go, this can't continue. But I don't have any faith in the club.
Those sort of, and I don't want to say that Newcastle players aren't it, but one thing, say over the last couple of seasons, the main thing that I would worry about with Newcastle would be their midfield. I think it's got a great engine, and I think that on its day, if you had that midfield, and I'm probably now talking in the past tense, right? But if you had that midfield, Joe Linton, Bruno, Tonali, for example, if you had that midfield, I thought they were going to give everyone problems. But when you speak about a midfield that's not sort of praised for its technical ability, it's its engine, it's its ferocity, right? You have to keep changing the parts. You can't not MOT it, because that midfield needs those constant little adjustments. And you see with some of the bigger managers and the better managers, Pep, for example, when you look at some of his recruitment, there's been a lot of ones that at the time were a little bit head scratchers, because you think, hold on, so-and-so's in great form. Did you need to replace that player, or did you need to add to it? And it makes a lot of sense over the time. It's how you keep things fresh. And Newcastle, obviously there's that massive side of not having the ability to do it. But if you take that aside, they haven't done that. And they've spent the money in other areas, which I probably didn't feel.
They've tried. I mean, Jacob Ramsey, Joe Willock, they've tried to supplement it, but I mean, they've just gotten wrong. And I think this is the problem with the Premier League. You only have to get 3 or 4 transfers of that level wrong, and you just fall away.
Let's be real. Jacob Ramsey is an okay player, but 40 million, I think we could have done better. But he's been okay. He's had some bad games. He's had some good games. But when you look at Wissa and Alanga, it's so funny that Voltomora's catching all the strays when he's had an impact this season. Everyone was impressed with him. And look, what happened. Eddie's fucked it with him and he's killed his confidence. It's actually brutal to watch. It's like, I've never seen a more damaging situation where a manager has had such a bad impact on this whole Eddie makes players better. He has killed this lad. But Wissa and Alanga, 110 million combined, they've done fuck all. They've done nothing, and yet they never get mentioned by the press. No one fucking mentions them. So, look, we do have to move on. I want to say Eddie gone as soon as humanly possible. Spurs are in an even worse situation than us, luckily. We played them earlier this season, and as bad as we are, I couldn't believe how bad they were. They were horrendous. Do we think they're going to get relegated, lads?
Well, there's a chance, isn't
maybe
there?
not, but you know.
Would you want them down? Would you? The thing is, an Arsenal fan, yeah, and
it's the Lander, isn't it?
Well, I've heard Liverpool fans say this about Everton over the years. I don't actually ever want to see Spurs go down because for me, when those fixtures get announced in the summer, I put those Spurs games into my calendar, and they're two of my biggest drinking days of the year, right? Because it's a great day. I don't want to lose that. But I was looking at the table and I was like, oh, hang on. Like, this could really happen. Like that, and
it really could.
You watch them. I mean, they're not just bad. It's a joke. Like, it is crazy how bad they are. And I'm looking at West Ham and going, they've got better players. I'd be more worried about playing West Ham at the moment than I would Spurs.
I think one of the main differences as well, though, is if you look at that West Ham team, they've brought players in. I actually thought their recruitment in the summer, it's come back to bite me in the arse thinking it. I thought their recruitment was maybe all right. But if you look at that West Ham side, it's not going to be a complete overall. It's not going to, every single player is not going to depart potentially, even if they do stay up. So say West Ham stay up. Let's not talk about relegation. If West Ham stay up, they're going to have, for the most part, the same players. Every Tottenham player knows they're not there next season. There's no way they're there next season if they go down. But even the ones that are under contract are already, in my opinion, trying to work out, right, okay, where's my exit strategy? And therefore, when you're in a relegation battle, especially when you're in a relegation battle, there's parts of the game that become a lot more significant. And I'm going to simplify it here. Getting stuck in becomes a lot more significant when you're battling relegation. And that's the exact sort of thing that goes first, I would say, when a player starts to look at a move and starts to work out how a new contract and a new house and a new life might benefit them. All of a sudden, that little extra 12-15% of getting stuck into a challenge, it doesn't happen anymore. And those margins are the ones that mean that when I'm looking at the teams that could pull away, I'm always going to look at the team who I believe that in here maybe aren't up for this fight enough. And that's what puts Spurs in the mix for me.
I think that's the weakest bit about Spurs. I think Forest and West Ham have more metal by a mile than Spurs. I couldn't believe how they stood off us at home. It was pathetic. And then you look at the West Ham results. All right, they lost to Liverpool, but they did score a couple of goals. They drew against Bournemouth, drew against Man United away, got the win against Burnley, and even gave Chelsea a decent game, and they beat Sunderland. So, like, in terms of form, West Ham are going in a completely different direction. Spurs are the rock bottom. It's ironically, Spurs are bottom of the league in form. Newcastle are second bottom.
So Spurs have got to go to Liverpool. They've got to go to Chelsea. They've got Villa. They've got a relegation 6-pointer against
Forest. The points as well. They're not on the beach. No. These are teams that need, And here's the thing about Spurs is, prior to this, you could argue Newcastle are the biggest club to get relegated in Premier League history so far. Spurs, because of their stadium, because of, Champions League finalists not long ago, you could easily make the argument they're an even bigger club and that they, and here's the thing. Newcastle's situation when we got relegated, because it was Mike Ashley, we were run very low budget, economical. It wasn't as disastrous to the club as, in my opinion, it would be for Spurs. I think this would be catastrophic for the future of Spurs Football Club. For them to recover, it would be really hard. It would God knows it's so, for me, if I was a Spurs fan, it wouldn't be just the relegation and the shitness of that and all that comes with it. It's the, oh my God, how long is this going to take to recover from? It could take decades.
Right, and then we're talking about the impact of the Champions League and not having Champions League money on their finances. So the chasm that we're talking about going into the Championship, it's completely different.
Payments ain't going to go far other.
And this is the thing, like, you've got bills to pay with that stadium. You've got to be able to afford all of this thing. And again, even if they keep a lot of those players, they'll still be on huge money in the Championship. They'll have problems in terms of FFP, in terms of the Championship.
Yep.
If they do go down, you mentioned Newcastle. Like, this is the thing. They might never come back. Like, it would be a huge story in the Premier League. And we're not far off it. This is the thing. They need to be punished. And a lot of clubs are being punished right now. We talked about my own club. I think there's various other clubs up and down the league that you could talk about this. Poorly run clubs are being punished more so now than they ever have been.
True.
And, they haven't learned the lessons from last season. They were really covering over a lot of cracks at the end of last season with what they did. Yeah. So I think now you're seeing this more than ever. And again, I even think with the hire that they made in terms of that manager, weird hire, probably the only man that was going to take the job at the time.
Honestly.
It's a firefighter that I don't really rate.
And I hate to sound like Brexit Brian over here, but like, if you're in a dogfight, I want someone who can at least fucking string sentences together that are very coherent and very clear and like, and to be fair to him, he was on the fucking touchline and I seen him try to give, was it Van de Ven?
Van de Ven,
Van de Ven just fucking ignored him. So to be fair, the players are part of the problem, but I just felt like, are you going to connect in this moment the way you need to? Because it feels like more of a project situation.
The other problem they've got is they're still in the Champions League. Yeah. Right? And they've got about 12, 13 players fit. So when they play Atletico Madrid, what do they do? Like, they're going to have to prioritise that game against Atletico Madrid.
Can't play Gallagher.
Youth team. They're going to have to.
Can't play Gallagher.
Youth team in Champions League.
They're going to have to because they can't do that. It isn't important. But the thing is now is they're fighting survival.
Survival's the most important thing, isn't it? Though it's survival, isn't it? You're not winning the Champions League. You've got to survive now.
Do you know the mad thing? We played Atletico Madrid earlier in the season. Bear in mind, Spurs finished 4th in the Champions League in the first round. I think they could get past Atletico. So then they've got more fixtures.
So you're saying you'll be happy to play in the Champions League and in the Championship?
Well, I'm not saying I'm happy for that. I'm saying I'm happy to watch Spurs potentially get to a quarter-final of Champions League.
I'll get relegated.
And get relegated in the same season.
If I was a Spurs fan, I'd take
Spursy, isn't it?
I'd take it. I'd take relegation Champions League. You're going to go to that stadium that you never see your team winning, and all of a sudden they're going to win twice as many games, and you're still going to get European nights. And the only thing with Spurs, right, is if they did go down in this hypothetical world, I'm so unconfident that they would get back up. Because when you look at the teams that didn't expect to go down, they're the ones that do struggle massively. If you look at Southampton and Burnley in the Premier League, they're planning for the Championship by January.
Well, Wolves have done it. Wolves have done it.
Exactly. Wolves have done it and they're going to come back up, and Tottenham's board have just come out and basically said, we didn't have much work to do in this transfer window because we're focusing on the summer one. You don't know what division you're recruiting for.
Jesus Christ.
Do you think it'll be Forest though? Like, do we think ultimately Forest will bail them out? I have a weird feeling it might go down to the last game of the season, Forest end up getting a result and Spurs stay out.
Gibbs White winner.
No. He's
supposed to go Spurs.
When you look at Anderson, you look at Gibbs White, they've got some Premier League players who you'd have a bit of faith in that, yous lot can figure this out somehow, I just don't see anything right now with Spurs. I'm not seeing it. And I've never, that was the easiest game Newcastle have had in years when we went to White Hart Lane. Is it still White Hart Lane?
Yeah, Tottenham Stadium.
But we can call it White Hart Lane.
I mean, listen, like, your career
lane, they changed it to.
Well, mate, your career's got 2 goals against them. They look like kids. I mean, they are kids. It's Archie Gray playing at the back for them. And as you say, Joey, like the Van de Vens, they're checked out, mate. He's probably spending more time in his agent's office than he is listening to that manager.
Yeah. If you look at Murillo and you look at the boys at Nottingham Forest, they are, to fight, you need to unite. And they are united. Yeah.
They've done it before.
Spurs don't look like they are.
They've done it before. West Ham have done these dog fights before. Forest players have done these dog fights before.
I'll say this, lads. If West Ham, Forest and Spurs were all on equal points right now, I would absolutely put money on Spurs being the ones to go. They've got a little cushion, and that might just be enough to keep them up. But in terms of how each team's playing, I think Spurs look the worst. They look the worst team in the league. That's the thing that hit me. It's not that you look worse out of those three. You look worse than Burnley and Wolves, who are already down. They're showing more fight than you are. How is that even possible? Burnley fucking fighting for their... Like, this is insane. Anyway.
On paper, by the way, they've got a decent team. Like, they should not be down there. So something has gone hugely wrong.
I think that they didn't learn from past mistakes in terms of the recruitment in the summer, and clearly that's what is hitting them now. And as you rightly said, a lot of teams are getting punished, my team included. We'll wrap that there. Gentlemen, it's been a good chat on the kickoff. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.